What's up guys, and welcome back to the Bonsai-En YouTube channel. I'm Josh, that's Batty, and today we're going to be going through the first steps needed to take on this Shohin Juniper. Alright, so today we're going to be trialing a new style of video where I've filmed some footage of some work that I've done. This is some minor easy work that I didn't feel needed a full video, but there is some stuff in here that I'd like to explain. That's why I've captured the footage, and I'll do this voiceover narration so that we can go through this together. So as you can see, we've just got a quick spin of the tree here, which gives you an idea of the tree before we start. Now, the first thing that I always do when I work on junipers or any tree that's got a fair amount of compact type foliage is go through with my tweezers and kind of get rid of any of the spider webs that build up. And if there's spider webs in your tree, then there's a spider in there somewhere. So I just go through with the tweezers and pick about and see if I can see the spider, see if there's any more nests in there. And this is also a good opportunity to knock out any of those dead needles from the interior that have been shaded out and haven't had any sunlight. Because if you've worked on a juniper before, you do know that if you get one of those dry needles up under your fingernail or even in the tip of your finger, it does hurt a fair bit. So that's what I'm doing here, just going through with the tweezers and trying to get rid of any of that stuff. Now, I'll just mention that this tree was potted up a fair while ago, so what we're actually doing in today's video is just taking the first steps towards actually styling the tree. So the tree was potted up, left to regain vigor, that's why it's all grown out the way it is. Let's settle into that Akadama pumice mix, from its organic growing mix. What you can see me doing now is just going through and cutting out any of the growth. I would say anything in the crutches, but also 10 to 15 mil up the shoot from where it emerges from the trunk. So what this does is just gets rid of that growth anyway, because it's not going to be photosynthetically efficient. And also it just opens up room for wiring, because that's the next thing that we're going to be doing. So as I go down here, this is just a more close-up view of the work that I've been doing. But as we move down the tree, you'll see it start to open up, and you'll be able to start to see the trunk line, and you'll see how much easier that will just make wiring. So you see that little bit of growth there, that was going to be useless to me, and it cleans up that first part of that shoot. And then two, you can go through and, just like I'm doing here, have a look at some of the shoots that you got and just make some decisions now. But I always do recommend that people don't actually make big decisions on cutting shoots and branches off at this point. Wait until you do your first bend, and you'll see later on in the video where I do that first bend. And then after that, make some decisions on what branches to keep, depending on where you made those branches and where everything's going to sit better. So, something else I'd like to mention is, although this work isn't major work, it is important work. So what I'm doing right now, we're coming into the spring season here in Australia. So basically, I'm opening up the tree, making it more photosynthetically efficient. That's a hard sentence to get out. And just getting some of that airflow through there, and the tree will thrive much more from that. And you can see here already how much actually just trimming out those crutches and the first 10 to 15 mil of each shoot has actually opened up the tree. So now we're going to start getting some wire on the tree, and this is going to be some very basic wire. So starting off by doing the main trunk line and then working down the tail. And you'll see here as I'm applying the wire, I'm being very careful. There's no race here as to get the wire on the tree. So every time I come around with the wire, I'm actually looking up underneath, making sure that I'm not squashing any of the existing shoots or needles, because once you squash any of your growth with the with the wire, then the tree has to actually concentrate on trying to repair that. So at that point, you're better off just cutting it off, because it's not going to repair properly and the tree's going to waste a bunch of time and energy trying to fix that. So when you're applying your wire, just take your time like I am here, move things out the way, try and get your wire through without squashing any branches. Try and do it neatly, keep your wire relatively the same pitch all the way down. You don't have to do a super tight pitch. I recommend keeping the width of your pitch open a fair bit, because you don't need to, really have your wire on tight. As I put this on time lapse now, you can see how even the gaps in the wire are and the angle of the wire. It's not super tight on there, but it still does the job. So just for the last bit here, you can see that I'm putting a smaller bit of wire on as we get out to that unlignified growth. And now we're going to actually start looking where we want to take the style of the tree, where we want to move the tail. So as you can see, I want to kind of move it back out towards the front of the pot a bit into that general area. And you can see that I had already thought about it before I put the wire on, but I put the wire the way that I knew I was going to bend the tail around. So what this gives me the opportunity to do is actually twist the branch as if I'm giving it an Indian burn. And this helps distribute the energy across the branch evenly. So that way you're not actually putting all the pressure of the bend in the one spot. So the reason that we put the wire the same way that we're going to do that twist is so as we twist, the wire tightens and not loosens. As you can see here, the tail has been put out towards the sunlight. So now we've kind of got the main line set a little bit, so it's just about making little minor adjustments here and there, just making angles a little bit tighter and moving the tree more into the direction where I think it wants to go. Now when doing this initial styling, so we really call this setting the bones of the tree. We're not really worried about how the tree looks at this point, we're just worried about the structure of the tree. And as you can see, I'm planning the structure of the tail to be out towards the light, so nothing is getting shaded out. Now on this time lapse, what you can see me doing now is actually going through and making choices on growth to remove, because now you can see that I've got my tail set, and now I know where I want to keep growth on the outside of curves and different bends, and the growth that I do keep, I can concentrate on growing and moving forward now. So this little bit of wire that I'm putting on here, all this is doing, this is, nothing real stylish or anything like that. But what this is doing is actually just guiding those bits of growth that I wanted to keep, because that growth is so young right now, it's so pliable, and you're not going to style it in any shape or form, but what you can do is point it in the direction where you want it to grow. That way, as it grows, it sets into that position and you get that movement nice and early while it's young and pliable. If you let this tree grow all the way out, then you're going to have a lot more trouble styling it at a later date. So you're better off doing this work now. And for us, as I said, we're just about to come into spring. So this tree will shoot and take off soon. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on that wire, but what that's going to allow it to do is where I put those bends, as the tree grows, the fibers will set, and those branches will be set in the positions that I want for the future. So that was just quickly showing you, the small wire I put on, and just see how I'm just bending it into place. No real style put into it, just knowing the future of where the tree is going to go. So now we can go through time lapse and move up through the rest of the tail and just get these bits of growth set and into the positions where we want them. So we want some going towards the back, some going towards the front. Most of our branches will be pointed down rather than growing up. We know that most of our branches, the growth will want to grow up towards the sunlight, phototropism. Even though this particular species of juniper is a ground cover plant and it will want to grow down towards the ground as the tail is doing, but the foliage itself will actually want to go up towards the light. even though the main trunk will want to go down. So just setting the last bit of the top part of the trunk there, and now you can see the final product of what that work was. Now this was only, about 30 minutes work, but just because it's small work, once again, doesn't mean that it's not important. Now the tree, I didn't touch the apex, but the apex doesn't really need to be touched at this point. I just wanted to show you guys some of the more minor work that we do, but it has to be done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, enjoy your bonsai journey.